Hello and welcome to DDOCast episode 469, recorded live on Sunday, April 9th. I'm your host, Patrick. With me this week, we have returning from the Brotherhood of Redemption on Sarlona, Propane.
Hello, everyone. Happy weekend.
Yay, weekend.
Fortunately, it's almost the end of the weekend, but still weekend.
Well, I worked today, so I think the weekend ended a little early this time around. But also, from Kyber and Utopia, we have Antha. Welcome back.
Thank you. Hey everyone, how you doing?
Yeah, welcome. This week's screenshot, kind of a nice one. Into the Deep offers a beautiful cavern in the 311th screenshot of the week. Thanks to Connie for this one. A nice little shot from, I think this is the one, the cave where the prisoners are. Pretty sure that's where it is, but it's one of the inside caves into the Deep. Which is can be a very uniquely beautiful area since it's all like underwater caves and stuff like that. So, a fun place indeed. We like to talk about Dungeons & Dragons online nearly every weekend. You can watch us through Twitch, YouTube, the DDO forums, iTunes, our website, DDOcast.com. DDOcast is hosted by Cyber Ears, the awesome podcast hosting network. Shows are usually available within a few days of recording, and the next show will probably be next Sunday. Yes, I know that's Easter, but that's what we're looking at doing our next show. You can stay updated by following us on our social media pages. At DDOcast on Twitter is the best. You can also follow our calendar, DDOcast.com. I update all of our shows, DDOCast Splat, and also the store sales and bonus days generally. I update those there as well. Let's see, on the podcast this week, we got a little bit of game news. There was a small patch, and it has some interesting things in it that we'll be talking about. So there's some fun stuff there. We're also going to be continuing our discussion on casual gaming. We started this last week, and we're gonna start just like we did last week with kind of defining our terms a little bit. However, there seemed to be a little bit of a disagreement for at least a couple people that maybe didn't like our definition of casual players. So just to start with that, we want to acknowledge that defining players, casual players, power gamers, that's kind of a risky business. But we also need to have a common ground to start from so you kind of know where we're coming from. That's why we started by giving some ideas of what a casual player is, or quote, casual player is. I certainly do not equate casual with skill level. So if we're trying to equate casual with skill level, that's not going to work for this conversation. That's not what we're saying at all. Someone was saying that casual players can't run raids, or at least not how I like them to which I say that's completely wrong, because the only things that I want for people to run raids generally are to participate and to listen. And if you do that, then I think even if you're casual, you can certainly run raids. So take the skill part out of the equation. We're just talking about mostly a demarcation of available time and resources to put into the game. That's really what we're talking about. Other than that, casual players can run the gamut between really skillful and still learning the game. I know a few people that would probably self-describe themselves as casual. They don't play all that often, but they are some of the best players that I know. So, and they raid and do all kind of stuff like that. They're generally playing at the quote end game. So, really, all we're saying is, when we're talking about casual gaming here, is a small amount of playtime. And the reason why we're talking about that is because we recognize, and our listeners ask for, that if you're playing fewer hours, there's going to be more challenges if you want to try and keep up with some of those players, or just in general. And specifically around getting gear, getting XP, and becoming a better player, just because you're playing less time. So this series is intended to help bridge that gap. So it's not expected that every casual player uses every single thing that we present here today or last week or next week. These are just some ideas, some thoughts, and some places that you can start. Maybe you'll use some of them, maybe you won't use any of them, but we hope that they're helpful for you. So yeah, casual player really just for us, right? And this is only for today, right? Like we're only defining the like casual player for today for this discussion and last week and next week as being someone who doesn't play as much. We're not going to like put a number on that. Although I did say last week, if you're playing 40 hours a week, you have a full time job playing the game. So I would say at that point you're probably beyond the casual player, at least for our discussion for today.
I like your point of also about people who have a lot of alts because of splitting the time up. It may be a casual approach just because instead of concentrating on one character, you have 3, 5, 8, 20 you're concentrating on, and you have to approach the game a little differently by dividing your time and your resources and energies like that.
Yeah, certainly. There's going to be some similarities between a person who doesn't play very many hours in a week and someone who plays a larger number of hours, perhaps even 40 hours a week, but is breaking that up between a number of characters. So you're only playing with a few hours a week with each character, and I can certainly identify with that because that tends to be more in line with my game play of playing. Like focusing on one character at a time, then playing 4 or 5 other characters on the side of that. So, I'm not saying that I'm a casual player. I would not self-describe myself as a casual player. I think I play way too much for that. But yeah, so really we're just talking about, for this discussion, leveling up, and last week's for gearing up, it's time. How much time do you have to put in the game? And so this is intended to give you some strategies, some tips for you don't have a lot of time, but you still want to get farther in the game. That's what we're trying to do here. So we're going to talk about leveling up this week. Last week we were talking about gear. So if you're looking for some strategies on getting better gear, listen to last week's episode. This week we're talking about leveling up. Next week we'll be talking about improving your play. So some strategies and things that you might want to consider that will make you a better player and kind of help you bridge that gap a little bit. Because, look, we recognize that casual player does not mean less skilled, but if you have less time devoted into learning something, you're not going to be probably not going to be as skilled as the average person who spends 4 times as much time playing. It's just, I mean, that's just how it works, right? So, in any case, leveling up. Let's talk about getting XP, because that's kind of the driving function of this game, or at least one of two, right? You're either getting gear or XP. Those are pretty much the two achievables in the game that you're probably going to be pursuing. So,
unless you're helping someone else get gear or XP.
well, but then you're still getting gear and XP, right? Like,
yeah,
you should still make
exactly.
that achievable
For yourself or others.
There's certainly a large number of people who really like doing things like raids, for example, that they do it for the challenge. That's totally fine. That's another way you can. That's another thing, but. I mean, I'm just going to go on a limb and say a number of shot in the dark, and say that, 80 to 90% of playtime in the game by the whole population is aimed at getting the achievables of XP and gear. That's usually what people are doing. Maybe not for you, but at least for someone else. So, in any case, let's talk about some tips for leveling up. Antha, do you want to kick us off here?
Sure, yeah. I think static groups are a great way to start building up XP. Also, you can build more experience as you do that. If you have a time restraint, just jump in a group. I mean, as long as they're going for it, I mean, it kind of depends on the group. But I've jumped in groups and we've completed like 6 or 8 quests in under an hour. That's really good. Obviously, if you find a group and everyone's just kind of chitter-chatting, then just drop group and go find someone who's pushing forward.
Yeah, and so there's actually, I think you kind of talking about 2 different things there, because we're talking about static groups. That's a group that you're going to be meeting regularly at specific set times, which can be very powerful for getting gear, which we talked about last week, or XP, right? Because some of this stuff is just easier in numbers, right? Particularly if you're trying to get gear for XP.
One of my old static groups we actually designed the party to complement each other. Yeah. And boy, you'd be surprised you get 5, 6 people where the people play together well and you got the right combination of skills and classes. You can really roll through some content in a hurry.
Yeah, especially if you get on the same page, and like I've even been in. I mean, there were short-term groups, but not static groups. But you'd have someone like, okay, you go break the boxes, and then maybe you got a trapper kind of pulling up and doing the traps and stuff like that. So you can really kind of speed things along there. So if you're soloing, you're doing all the work in the quest. Period. It's that's what soloing is. But if you get in a group, especially a static group, just because, and the reason why we're saying starting with static groups is like if you are playing with a small amount of time, if you find other people that are playing at that same time window, you spend less time looking for groups. Which, I mean, that can cut down on. I mean, just if you're trying to find that right group to run stuff, particularly if maybe you're trying to run stuff on hard instead of elite or reaper, and you don't want to run that stuff. I mean, you can end up spending a little more time finding people to run with. Static groups, you already have that figured out, right? That's great. So, but pugs are another way to do that too, right? Grouping is just in generally, as long as you're kind of all on the same page, will make things go a lot faster. So, should we talk about anything else with grouping? I mean, there's guilds too, but it's all kind of the same thing, right? Like, if you build a network of people, you can generally find groups faster, which means you're playing quests and doing quests more. So.
Yeah, but we have a calendar in our guild, and I try to encourage people, hey, if you're going to be on Thursday night, want to run something level 15, put it out in the calendar so other people have a chance to take a look at it, and you might have some friends waiting for you right away. So as much as the planning or coordination you can do out of game, so when you log in, you can hit the ground running. It just makes better use of your game time.
Yep. Yeah, we do that in my guild for raids a lot of times, because you can end up spending a half an hour waiting for people to fill. So, Dirty Dexter does say a lot of it does depend on what server you're on too, which is it's absolutely true. But you can use the forums to find standing groups. That can be really an effective way, or a guild. That can be effective ways of doing that outside of game time. But yeah, there's some servers that, like Wayfinder, that's a lower population, so it might be harder to find groups. Although you may find more people that are interested in static groups because of that. Yeah, Propane, do you want to? What else you got for us for leveling up?
I was going to talk about banking levels, especially in the heroic levels. I always try to bank a full level, and I think it really becomes a little more important when you get to the teens, like level 12. If there are people trying to do bravery bonus for Vaughn 5 and 6, if you're 13, they're not going to want you. So I try to hold on to 12 till I get the 14s, just so if it pops up, I can hop in that high XP runs Vaughn and 5 and 6. The same with 16. I try to stay 16 as long as I can so I can do the giant hold loop. 18, I try to stay 18 as long as I can. I'll never take 19, so you can do the Veil quests and some other quests. So when you get to those upper levels, I think, especially if you're trying to enable yourself to group quicker by being aware of the bravery bonus level ranges, it makes it a little easier hopping into a group.
I think most people don't take 19. That's been a pretty common thing for a while. I definitely find that I bank a lot more earlier, and as I get later, partly because I personally tend not to run quests in heroic that you can run as epic quests, because there's kind of fewer quests in epic levels, and I kind of like to have the first time XP bonus wait until I'm in epic levels. And there's a couple areas like around like 13, 14 range. That's a lot of your options are quests that run on epic, because Giant Hold, Trials of the Archons, and Orchard are all in that level range, and they're all epic or legendary versions. So I don't know,
After the Lord's March.
yeah, it's pretty much all there is. Uh, so having banked some XP beforehand kind of can help me get through that a little bit.
There's some slayers in that level range. If you kind of get stalled in that level range. What's Orchard? Is it what 13, 14? I forget. Or the Sands. You got the Sands, you got Orchard, and you got the Vale. All those are in that mid-teens for doing slayers to help bridge that gap if you're skipping some of those chains waiting for the epic version.
Yeah, that's a good. And those Slayers are nice because if there's an epic version, the two are distinct. All the counts are different, which is nice. But what do you guys tend to avoid playing if you know you're going to take your character into epic levels? Do you tend to avoid quests that have epic versions so you can get the first time bonus, or you kind of not care?
I personally don't tend to care. If it's maybe like for Demon Queen, I'll usually hold off with Ryum, and I'll just wait till epic level since that offers so much XP. But usually I just try to have fun. I mean, if it depends on the life.
Well,
yeah, I'm just thinking that's a good point on the life. On the first life, I'll often skip the quests that can be epic just because there's so much XP for a first lifer that I rather get that extra bonus in the epic levels. But on maybe a third or fourth lifer, I'm slugging through the heroics. I'd rather get that XP now, and I'll be fine when I get the epics.
yeah, it's one of those things. Things open up a little bit more when you get to epics because bravery bonus expands, power leveling changes, right? So if you don't know what we're talking about for bravery streaks, if you are 2 levels or no more than 2 levels above a quest that's normally level 1 to 19. So what we mean by that is the quest that it lists in the adventure compendium. If you're no more than 2 levels above that, you can do what's called a bravery streak. So if you're on hard, you'll get a bonus for one. Just the first time you're running it is on hard, and you're streaking. Even if you haven't actually, it's like the first quest in your streak, you'll still get a little bit of extra bonus because the first time you're running it is on hard. It's a little bit more than that on elite, and then if you run at least 5, or so each quest you run successively up to 5, you get more of an additional bonus to XP for completing those quests in sequence. That's called your bravery streak. And we'll talk about that a little bit more in a minute, but since we're talking about it, I want to make sure people define our terms. The other one is power leveling. So in heroics, if you are running with someone who's more than 3 levels higher than you, you take a penalty to your XP. And I think it starts at 50%, and it accelerates pretty quickly. So that's something to note. In epics, bravery streak at level 20, so anything that's a level 20 quest, you can run up to 3 levels higher than that and still get a bravery streak. In epics, it's 4 levels. But also, once you hit 20, there's no power leveling. So it doesn't matter how high of a level someone is compared to you. So you can run quests with a level 30 as level 20 if they're epic quests, and you don't take a penalty to your XP. At least you don't take a penalty because of power leveling. There's still things like if someone is higher than the quest level, then there'll still be penalties to the quest XP as well. But at least I think that happens. I know that happens on heroics. I think that happens on epics too, but maybe not. Do you guys remember if it does or doesn't?
I really don't, but it's still not that much of a hit as if you were being power leveled.
I think in epics there's no over level penalty.
Yes, and say in epics, I really ignore the level range, run the harder late, and go most of the time. But heroics, I pay much more attention to it.
Pretty sure both the level of the person versus the level of quest and power leveling only applies in heroics, which does include a few quests that would be over 20. Like you have to actually have that epic tab to get out of those penalties, but. which is good to know. It's just good to know those numbers, because if you're not, you may be losing some XP that you could otherwise be getting. You can also pause your bravery streak, which can be really helpful. We'll talk about that in a bit. But before we get too far away, I'm gonna go back to Slayer areas because we're talking about Slayer areas. And Dirty Dexter in the chat was saying that it's something he likes to do sometimes if he doesn't want to lead a group, which would be a really great way of doing things. But how much do you tend to use guys? How much do you guys tend to use Slayer areas that are kind of specific things you tend to look for with those?
Personally tend to use the Slayer areas just when I'm epic, mainly just the Veil, I'm sorry, not the Veil, the Orchard. But on heroics, I mean, it's a great way to build up XP. I mean, pop a hour pot in the Orchard, go in there, slay some stuff, start a group. That's always a popular way to get some XP, and great if you're on a time restraint.
Yeah.
Yeah, heroics. I think I'll purposely run Slayers at certain level ranges in those mid-teens to help get through things. When I get to epic, it's more of just what's going on or happenstance. It's not really a planned activity unless someone else is out there doing it, join them. But in heroics, I intentionally run them at that mid-teen range.
Yeah, I tend not to run them too much in heroics. Generally, if I'm in a Slayer area at heroics, it usually means I'm pretty close to a level benchmark that I want to hit. I do that in epics too a lot. Like sometimes I'm kind of in between things. I'm downtime, and you know when you're like 5,000 XP from a level, or even in epics like 20,000 XP from a level, you can go knocked out in most of the epic Slayer areas really quick.
Just thinking, if you do your orchard loop and you do your discover the locations in maybe a half hour, you can easily walk out of there 30, 40,000 XP experience if you get a few
Heroic,
rare
yeah,
spawn. Yeah, and
absolutely.
heroic and find a couple of them. That's pretty good XP at that level range for that time.
The epic ones that people tend to run, King's Forest, mostly because of there's a never-ending portal spawn there. And then Orchard and Thunderholm tend to be really popular ones as well. Although Three Barrel Cove in epic levels is actually another good one. And Stormhorns and Wayloon are also pretty good as well. And you can get maps on the wiki, so you can find all the explorer points. But I mean, really, Slayers is where you're gonna really start making XP when you get up there. On the heroic side, Orchard again is a popular one. Veil is a pretty popular one. I think Subterrane's kind of fallen out of favor, although I think most people run that to get to the giant chest, the giant skeleton chest.
Yep.
Gargamos chest.
Yeah. I think some of the same ones that I mentioned tend to be fairly good. The newer of the Slayer areas tend to be more profitable because they tend to use more of a scaling mechanism. So the more people you have in your party, the more monsters you get, which means you kill more stuff a lot faster. You can also use hirelings to boost that number, although they don't scale the numbers of mobs as much as having actual people in your party. But if you've got some of the figurines, I mean, you can. Geez, if you have like the lioness and maybe one or two of the owlbearers, and you pop a cleric hireling, I mean, you can make a full party yourself, and that will boost the numbers up a little bit.
Want to put a quick plug in for the Subterrane. You can go in there if you're in a raid group. So if you're trying to fill a raid and it's taking a little time, you can do a quick Gargamel loot run. It takes 3-4 minutes, 5 minutes, and you don't have to worry about being in a raid group or not.
Assuming someone knows the way.
Just follow G's.
Yeah. Mystic Walker is also pointing out Reaver's Refuge Slayer areas, which is actually a good one. I use that one a lot, just because again that I'm almost to that next benchmark in heroic XP. Can pop down there. They're small, so it's really easy to find all the explorer areas. Each one only has like 6 points waypoints to find, so you can find them all pretty quick. So
And looking ahead, I think they just added a teleporter there.
they did. Yeah, we'll talk about that. Shavrath's another one that just got thrown out of the chat, which can be another one as well. The one thing to remember about Slayers that's kind of nice is they tend to be easier than the quests. Now, granted, let me rephrase that. They tend to be easier than running quests on Elite. Maybe not. Maybe about the same as normal. So they can be a great way to do things that are you don't have to worry about time as much because you can just pop in and out as you're able to. And if you find yourself having trouble getting through some of the quests, they might be a little easier for you as well. So
Another thing, if you have a second monitor, or iPad, or smartphone or something, you always can pull up the map on your second device or window, and that way it'll help you move through it a little quicker.
you get people usually find a path too if you go the same one over and over again. So, Antha, anything else you want to say about Slayer areas?
Yeah, well, I was going to throw in there for the Reaver's Refuge. It's also nice because all three of those little Explorer zones share the same Slayer count. So you can easily just throw the pot in, boost it, run to one, finish it, the other one resets, and just keep going.
There are actually 4, by the way, for Reaver's
Oh,
Refuge.
yeah,
the one that, but you have to
last one.
unlock the last one. So, but
and
No.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just going to throw my last plug-in for a resettable Slayer count. Boy, that would they come off the shelves in the DDO store. If you got to the max Slayer count or something, let you reset that, especially people that are on the Epic TR loop.
yeah, maybe it might be a little too easy, but sure.
And then I'd just like to add that, as you start going through the Explorer zones, if you start learning where all the Explorers are, it makes a quick little 10-minute run. Just run in there, grab all the Explorers, you unlock the entire map, so you can see where the quests are at if you don't know. And it nets you a pretty decent amount of XP.
Yeah, one more that I want to throw out there is Demon Web, which I think turns a lot of people off. Actually, I know it turns a lot of people off because navigating Demon Web it's pretty tricky. If you fall, you end up in random locations in the map. But there's a ton of waypoints to click on and get some XP. And so even if you're just wandering around aimlessly, pretty much every single island has a clickable waypoint that gets you a couple thousand XP a pop. So don't look. I use that one a lot for, again, those little benchmarks of I need another 15,000 XP and I'm going to get a feat. Great. I head there. The last thing I want to say about that is you can play some tricks with maximizing your XP. We'll talk about some more of these, but I should kind of talk about it now, I guess. Something I like to do is, particularly when you get into that range of a Slayer area, so a lot of times what I'll do is I won't finish a Slayer area. Maybe I'll run to like 30,000 kills or 3,000 kills, because you can do that pretty quick in some places like the Orchard, for Epic Orchard, for example. So get up to maybe 1,500 or 3,000 kills, depending on how fast it's going. And then I'll do the same thing in a different area, like the Thunderholm or something like that, and let my Slayer pot or my XP pot and my Slayer pot kind of run out. And then when I don't have an XP pot going, you can run those. You can start working on those larger kill ranges, right? Where you got to get like 2,000 kills before you get another bonus. And if you do that while you don't have an XP pot, you can maximize your XP pots a little bit more. And then what you do is, say, 50 kills, 50 to 100 kills away from that next big benchmark, leave, go run a nice long quest, say Epic Crucible or something that's going to take you 30, 40 minutes to an hour, right? Get to the end of that quest, chug your XP pot, finish the quest, bank all that nice XP with your XP pot, and then go back to one of those Slayer areas, get those last couple of kills, and in 5 minutes of pot time, you've gotten a large amount of XP, bonus XP.
Just don't forget to drink the pot. I've done that a few times.
Yeah, don't forget to drink that. Or what happens to me is you die in the end fight. You die in the end fight, and they finish it, and then they raise you, and you didn't drink your XP pot yet. So maybe
No.
maybe drink your XP pot when you get to the boss fight. But you can play those kind of games, and then by the same token, and then once you're done doing that Slayer area, then go turn in all your Saga XP and get a bunch of XP for that and stuff like that. So it could be a good way to do it. Let's see. I think they covered Slayer areas pretty well. So don't discount Slayer areas. They're pretty awesome. Let's talk about streaking, because we started talking about that, and we'll come back full circle. So bravery streaking. There's this funny thing, maybe not so funny, but a lot of people tend to, they only want to run Elite or now Reaper, even just on Reaper 1, because you get more XP by running it. It is a little more difficult, but a lot of players that have been playing longer, running these quests ad nauseum, either they like the little extra challenge, but they also like the XP bump in what you're getting. So the question becomes, should you streak or not streak? And should you run Reaper or not Reaper? So what do you guys think? What do you guys think about for yourselves, but also other players? Should you streak? Should you play Reaper or not?
I can go first. I typically like running Elite or Reaper 1 because you're still moving along at a fairly healthy clip. And especially in the mid-teens, I respect the banking of levels. So I'm normally streaking, although if there's something juicy out there, I'll maybe turn it off. But just by the way I bank levels, it just tends itself to be streaking at the same time. And I'm not opposed to running Reaper 1 or 2, but if you're running more than that, then I think it's a different play style. You're a little bit more up for the challenge and a little bit less for the efficiency. Another nice thing about running Reaper 1 or 2 is you typically get a little bit more of the not bacon, or the little collectible things, remnants drops. Yeah. So you can start collecting them at a little faster rate as well.
I say streak religiously. And if you find someone that's running either a raid or a quest and they're accepting higher levels or lower levels, just turn it off. It's that easy. As for Reaper, I'm not really running Reaper 1. I go for the challenge in that, so I'm running Reaper like 3+.
Yeah, I would say, so I tend to run almost only Elite. Now, part of that is because I can find people to run it with, or I have characters and enough tricks up my sleeve that I can get through a lot of those quests. Now, having said that, what I don't want casual players to come out of this is thinking, oh, you have to run streaks. You don't need to run streaks. If you ran every quest in the game on normal at each level, you would go all the way from 1 to 30. Well, at least 1 to 20, no problem. Especially for a first life. I would say that the thing that I would definitely recommend is, even if you're not going to be streaking, or use the ability to turn your bravery streak on and off if you can. You have to be able to get in the Hall of Heroes, or you have to have a guild ship to do that. But don't be afraid to turn off your streak and run some other stuff.
Worst case scenario, you break your streak, but you start running back in stride again, and you start getting bonus XP, 2 or 3 in before you get max XP at 5?
The first quest you run, you start getting a little bit of bonus XP. You just start getting more and more and more.
Because I've seen people that would wait 20 minutes, a half hour, trying to fill a group to streak, to maintain their streak, where you could have run the quest 2 or 3 times and you'd be way more XP ahead. So if you're limited time, go in and do something instead of trying to get that perfect alignment of quest and streak.
Yeah.
That's my opinion.
It's unfortunate that players feel almost obligated to run streaks so much. For those of us that can do it easily and love it, it's not a big deal. But particularly for casual players that don't feel up to it, don't want to run that, they want to run stuff a little bit slower, it's totally fine to run stuff on normal. Will you be a little sore with the XP? Yes, a little bit. But if you struggle to get through Elite, you'll probably get more XP by running stuff on hard or normal. If you're soloing a lot and you can't solo elite, run it on normal. I would just recommend that you pause your streak if you can. If you're running on normal, at least. If you're running on hard, you'll still get a hard streak. And there are people out there that just do hard streaks. Totally valid way to play. It takes advantage of the bravery streak for hard, but it also makes it a little easier and they can go a little faster. That's totally fine. So don't. What I really wanted to say to casual players to come out of this is don't be afraid not to run streaks. And if you post an LFM for a hard streak, I'd be shocked if you didn't find anyone to run with you on some of that stuff. There's probably more people just like you that don't want to run things on Elite or Reaper.
And then if you already have random on Elite or Reaper, you still get the first time bonus XP for running it on hard. So some of the more commonly ran content, I would, especially if I ran it once already, I'd be more than happy to rerun it at hard for that first time.
Yes, indeed. So you can use that stuff, and you bring up a good point too. Like you can rerun content on a different difficulty and still get the bonus. Still get the first time for that difficulty bonus, which can be fairly significant. I think it's 20, 40, 20 for normal, 40 for hard, 80 for elite, and 120 for Reaper. So if you've already run something on elite, you can run it on hard. There's a few quests that people actually do that a lot on. Sane Asylum comes to mind as being a quest that if you know what you're doing and you got a good group, you can run that on elite pretty quick, and then run it on hard and normal a couple times, and before you start really getting penalized on repetition XP, repetition penalty, and just grab a bunch of XP pretty quick. So, could be another good way to do it. But yeah, don't run it at what you're comfortable. I think what Propane said, kind of in passing, is just run something, right? Even if you run something on normal, you're getting more XP than if you aren't running anything at all.
Exactly.
And I would also say with that, don't be afraid to join someone else's group. If you're not feeling very confident about running Elite or Reaper, but you see an LFM up for a quest that maybe you're a little more familiar with, and don't be afraid to try and get that last one or two spots in a group. You can still you probably find once you get a number of people, probably a few people know the quest pretty well and won't really notice too much or care too much if they're carrying the rest of the group a little more than a party that's kind of more dialed in. But.
And a good tell to say is I'm fairly new to this quest, but I listen well.
Yeah, and you do that with raids too, right? I'm not familiar with this. I'm a little, not sure about it. Can I join you? If you ask, they'll usually say yes. If they say no, it's probably because it may not be a good time for you to do that. If you ask me to run riding the storm out, and we're running on Elite, and it's your first time, and you're not sure if you should come, it's probably not a good time for you to come learn the raid. But otherwise, probably find some people that'll take you along.
I'd say 9 times out of 10.
Yeah. And if they say no, you probably didn't want to run with them anyways. So.
Exactly. Yep. Everyone's been new at one point or another.
Yeah. We talked about sagas a little bit. I tend not to use them personally unless I kind of keep track of them so I know. But I haven't been using them very much of late. But I know a lot of people like to, when they get to level 30, they'll complete a saga, use an epic reincarnation, and then turn all the saga XP in and boost their XP nice and fast that way.
Yeah, help the...
You helped what?
Oops, sorry. Having that Saga XP waiting for you when you go from 30 to 20 and starting out at 20 again is very nice. You get to unlock some gear quicker. That 20 the 21 level always seems to take forever. So it's nice having that waiting for you.
Yeah, that's what I like to do is complete the sagas, epic TR, come back, jump on those, and then I do what Patrick said earlier with the explorer zones that you leave. Like I leave them a little closer, like 10 kills, but just a way to maximize your TR and TRing efficiency.
I usually leave a little bit more of a gap there because, like, okay, 100 kills. Start recalling, and by the time I've actually finished out, I'm down to like 30 kills left, depending on the group. So that's why
Oh, I just slash death out.
That probably worked pretty well. That's instantaneous, isn't? Or is that?
Yeah, and especially you bind in your airship, it takes you right back there.
Mistwalker has a nice thing in the chat. It says, one pet peeve of us, if you are new to a quest or raid, please just tell us, and we will be happy to take it slow and show you things. Don't wait till the end and be lost and not say anything. We'll know, one way or the other. We generally figure it out. So, yeah. Yeah, you can bank stuff like that. Works really well. Or even just, turn them in when you're ready for them. Again, have an XP potion running if you can. They're a good thing to save until you have an XP potion running if you don't have a lot of them. Good way to do it. What else should we talk about for getting XP? I know Propane, you've got dailies written down.
Yeah, especially in epics, doing Von 3, Spies in the House, Two-Toed, even Whiz King. You can pound that whole chain out in about an hour, and that's a pretty healthy chunk of XP. And especially Two-Toed, there's that Gibber's Blade in there, and I believe that there's, I don't know a character who doesn't need one of those.
Yeah, that's a pretty useful item. And it does drop, contrary to popular belief sometimes. I have seen a number of them, especially if you start just running it a couple times a day, a couple times a week. Yeah.
I know, is that chain ran on the other servers? I know on Sorona we run Von 3 Spines. Yeah, I would expect it's across the board, but that's a pretty common XP run.
It's certainly less common now just because a lot more people are running Racial Reincarnation. So the population at epic levels has dropped a bit. But if you put up an LFM, the only server I'd say this may not be true is Wayfinder, but I'm pretty sure if you put up an LFM and say you're running daily XP, and you put Von 3 and Spies and Two-Toed in there, and Epic, and these are things that people run on normal. They'll run it the first time on Elite usually, and then they just start running on a normal, maybe not every day, but a couple times a week, and you can get, like 500,000 XP out of running that stuff each time?
Easy, yeah. And you don't even have to wait that long for the group to fill.
Yeah, because you're running on normal, and they generally fill pretty fast too. And look, if you're not very good at spies, that's totally don't put spies in your daily run, right? Or kind of learn it while other people are running it and kind of tag in behind them. They won't really even notice that you're behind them necessarily. Or if you tell them that you're having trouble with the jumps, maybe they'll come back and show you how to jump them better.
If nothing else, each time you're in there, you'll learn it and get a little farther, a little faster. So,
yeah, those daily runs fill up pretty quick, generally speaking. So, or even if you're like me and you don't like running the same 4 quests every day, I usually just run spies. If I'm kind of in that mode of trying to get some of that XP, just pick one of them and run it once or twice a day. That's all you necessarily need. You don't need to run all of them every single day. I'm a big fan of changing scenery. I don't like running the same thing over and over and over again.
That's what I was gonna put a plug in there for you. Since you get the elite bonus, take a look at your quest compendium and figure out if there's some things you haven't done. It may not be the best XP per minute, but if it's your first time through there, the XP is generally going to be decent. So once in a while, venture off to the less common paths and go get that first time bonus. You'd hate to leave it sitting there.
If you don't know quest, turn your streak off. Go run it on normal. Probably maybe it's a little too easy for you. That's fine. You learn the quest a little bit, and you get more confident with it. And next time around, maybe you find a quest that's like, oh, this quest is really easy. I'm gonna add this to my the list of quests I like to run at that level. Makes it work pretty well. Let's see. I think the last thing on my list is to talk about challenges, which, if you can run them effectively, can be massive amounts of XP the first time. Uh, Particularly when you start getting into the epic ones. I would say the 6 that are in Evening Star are by far easier and shorter than the ones that are in House Cannith.
I
So,
totally agree. Those are just basically beatdowns, really.
yeah, and if you can 6-star them, so run them at level 30 and get 5 stars, uh, that's a lot of XP, pretty quick, and I think you can run the whole set of them in an hour. Uh,
Yep.
and you're
Six
gonna,
starring them.
yeah. Now you need to make sure you got some good DPS in your group. But even if you only get like 3 or 4 stars out of these things, you're still gonna get a lot of XP out of them. So
Yeah, we typically wait for a bonus material drop weekend, and
yep.
then we'll cycle through our alts through those challenges, because then you're double dipping. You're getting a nice first time XP bonus, and then you're getting a good pile of materials at the same time.
Yeah, it's a great way to do it when you get the challenge bonus days. I believe the XP weekends also apply to those, although I've never like really tested that theory.
So I've never tested that either. But
Yeah, I'm not sure either.
They do. They can apply to the buddy ones, don't, but the just 20% heroic and XP weekends, I believe they apply to both Slayer areas and challenges. So if you happen to know that there's a heroic and epic XP weekend, maybe you might be a good time to go get your Slayer counts from 3,000 to 4,995 or whatever, and then wait for the weekend and then go kill those last 5 things. That little extra maximizing XP.
I just wanted to add on to what Propane said. During those bonus days, I mean, even if you don't know the actual challenge, if you throw up an LFM, those will usually fill. Even if it's with 4 people, that's enough.
Yeah, finding people that want to run some of that stuff is usually not too hard. Even on non-bonus weekends, it's one of those funny things where there's a lot of things, and challenges, Evening Star challenges are one of them, that all it takes is someone to put up an LFM, and there's usually a couple people that, man, I've been thinking, man, I really want to run this stuff. I know it's really great XP, but no one's running that. And they see an LFM and they join it, and you got a party. So it can all be a good way to do it.
I think that's just all overall good advice if you're trying to get XP, because if you actually post a group, I don't know if I'm going to make a stereotype guess here, but there are more people that rather join a group than lead a group. So if you get accustomed to knowing a couple quests and leading a group, post that LFM, you'll have people hitting it typically pretty quick.
And there's a couple, I can actually give you a couple tricks on that too. The first is unless you're running like a raid, most of the quests, it doesn't matter if you have the star. No one's really going to look to you and actually expects you to really, quote, lead this group. At most, they'll ask what's next when you finish a quest, and then you can say this is next, and they'll either leave, suggest something else, or stay and run that with you. So, don't be afraid of the star that much. There's a few quests that maybe it helps to have someone more leadership involved, but that doesn't even necessarily have to come with the person with the star either. Now, if you want to put in something that says, hey, I'm not really leading the quest, I'm just putting up an LFM for it, that's fine. It's very kind of you and lets people know that you're not an expert at this quest. That's fine. But probably 95% of the quests you can put an LFM up for, no one's expecting you to lead. You don't really need to lead them very much.
There's even an option in the LFM options that you don't want to lead.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how many people check that though, but
we were talking about the public group thing, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
So which is the next thing I was talking about. There's an option when you enter a quest, you can click this little thing on there that that makes it public, which means when you go in, it automatically posts an LFM for that quest, and it lets other people know that you're running it. Uh, it's it's a little bit like grouping like using grenades to fish. It's just kind of throwing it out there and hoping for the best, but it's pretty low effort way to find a group. And there's probably someone out there who wants to run it as well. So, Dirty Dexter in the chat saying, "Don't be afraid to put in that you're learning a quest or you're not running on Elite." That's absolutely true. Some people won't join you, but if you're trying to learn the quest, you probably didn't want to run with those people anyways, because they probably weren't going to show you very much, and they were probably going to leave you behind. So, anything else we should say about earning XP before we move on? Or closing thoughts?
Yeah, I'm just looking. One of the things I try to do is if I can't play, I'd still try to log in once a night to get my daily rolls. And I try to, you get XP gems and you get your XP pots, you get your Slayer pots, so it's a good way to start making a stash of those. And then I try to save the gold rolls for the weekends, because there's often things that boost the rolls during the weekend. And that way, you can have a stash, especially like the XP gems. I got an alt that's all he has is full of 1,000 plus XP, 1,000 XP plus gems. So when I do a TR and back to level 1, I can pop a bunch of those gems and get level 2 to 3 and get some gear unlocked right away before even starting. So try to get those daily rolls done if you can sneak on for a minute.
I actually don't tend to store mine anymore. It was for a while. And then I just kind of figured that, particularly when you get high enough level, like the silver roll, at any level, silver roll is really not going to do a whole lot for you. I don't tend to use them once I get close to a level cap, just from the standpoint that a quest is going to put me over the top anyways, so it's just kind of wasting it from that point of view. But
to auto level from level 1 to level 3, I think is where the majority of mine go.
Yep. I know a lot of people right now are using daily dice rolls to get to level 2 right away, since there's not any level 1 quests you can run on Reaper. So they like to get to level 2 as fast as they can and then start running Reaper quests while they're doing their reincarnation. I know that's pretty popular right now. Anthony, do you have any tricks you use with those gems?
Yeah, I usually store the anything from 750 up, and just the same thing. I only use them for heroic. If I get to epic, I stop taking them. Just store them up on alt, take them. You'll get to level 2, level 3 if you have enough saved up, and just makes it a little less grindy, I guess you can say.
Yeah, but then you gotta have all that space in your bank to transfer them and stuff.
That's true.
I just
Don't hoard.
started eating them. That's kind of what I did with them, but yeah. All right, and closing thoughts on getting XP?
The game's supposed to be fun, so if you're not having fun, I mean, you're doing something wrong, or just you got to revisit what you're doing.
Yeah, Propane?
Amen. Yep. If you're not having fun, do something else. Have another alt or two. That's generally my adjustment. Is I got enough alts that I'm sick of running epics now. I go around heroic something for a while. It tends to self-moderate that way.
I'll give it, my closing thought is going to be have options. And what I mean by that is don't log on and be so, particularly if you're playing with a small amount of time, don't log on and like the only thing that you're going to do when you log on, it's got to be running this. Give yourself some options. So maybe you log on and you've got a couple different characters that you like to play. Log on, roll your dice on whatever character you want that dice to be on, so you don't have to pass it through your bank. And look at the LFM panel. What's going on? Oh, hey, here's a group that's running at this level range. That's where one of my characters is. Go and log on to that character, right?
Actually, I generally log into my bank, do my roll, check the LFM, and then hop on the correct alt.
Yeah. And if you've got a couple of characters that are in different kind of places in the game in terms of level ranges, it makes it a lot easier for you to find. More likely, you're going to find a group that people are running that matches what you kind of want to run. That's my advice. So there's a bunch of ideas on how you can maximize your XP. Hopefully, at least a few of them are helpful. Again, we're not expecting you to use all of them. But if you do, great. We hope that you are finding a lot of XP pretty quick. With that, we'll get into game news. And there wasn't a whole lot, but we did get Update 35, Patch 3, which had a couple fun things in it. So they tweaked Drow Darkfire again. It now deals 1d8 damage per character level. It is now slightly faster to cast and has a lowered spell point cost of 4 spell points. So the tweaking continues there. Racial capstone feats now appear in the character sheet feats list. That's convenient. That's been one of the great changes in the last year or so, that they made it so that you can look at your past lives and all those different kind of the tome feats and everything in your feat list. That's great. I love that. Let's see. Specialized randomized items from the Stormhounds and Wayloon have been updated. These items were incorrectly appearing with Mythic and Reaper bonuses and were able to be deconstructed in Canth Crafting. They are no longer compatible with Canth Crafting, however, they also no longer drop with Reaper or Mythic bonuses, which is not working as intended, so that should come back later. They did some work with hand reps to now properly use increased haste bonuses. Here's a fun one. Heroic Against the Slave Lords item crafting is now less expensive. The cost is now 50 and 20 ingredients rather than 125. So that's 50 of the common, 20 of the uncommons. Also, ingredient drop rates in Against the Slave Lords have been increased in chests at every difficulty, with a slightly higher chance for a more numerous amount to drop per chest. But what that has amounted to, from my understanding, is you're probably going to get on Elite somewhere around the range of 10 to 14, at least for Epics. I'm not sure about Heroics, but Epics I'm hearing about 10 to 14, and there's a chance to get 30 out of a chest. They also now offer more ingredients in the end rewards list. I think it went up to 25 for the Epic version, or Legendary version. It went up to 25 of the commons, and I think 7 or 8 for the uncommons, something like that. Take the commons. You need more commons than uncommons, surprisingly. Let's see. Other stuff. A teleport NPC has been added in Reaver's Reach, which I think is a very welcome and long overdue change. If you don't know where Reaver's Reach is, you have to go to the Cyber Atoll, and you end up in this cavern that there's 2 ways out, or 3 ways out. You can cast a teleport. You could slash death, preferably in the tavern, so as not to take damage, or you could ride these air jets all the way up to the top. Although I guess you could now also log out and log into one of the Hall of Heroes, but
Forgot the fly option.
well, okay, sure, you can fly out, but that's kind of like riding the air jets.
I wonder how many help tickets are for people stuck in there, or were stuck in there trying to get out back in the day.
I'm sure they're still getting them. Although, I think generally, if you are at that level and find the place to begin with, most of those people are aware that you can slash death as well. So
Yeah. I just think back to the day when everybody and their brother was wearing dragon touched armor.
yeah, popular. It's lost a lot of popularity since then, but some people still run it. The quests have good XP. They're just a little bit more challenging than the average quest at those levels, mostly because of traps. The Monastery of the Scorpion and Enter the Kobold both, shall we say, favor characters with high reflex and evasion.
There's some good XP out there. If they got a nice loot pass, that would help that area quite a bit. It's a pretty area. There's quite a good variety out there. And those quests are fun.
Yeah, I like those quests. Although if you want to hear a different perspective on Enter the Kobold, listen to, I think it was the last Player's News, or the one before it. Draculetta ran that for the first time.
Oh boy.
That'll be good.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to listening to that.
It's My only complaint about those quests is the end fights in kind of all three of them are a pretty sharp ramp up in difficulty that you might not be expecting.
Yeah, you steamroll through the quest and then you get to the end. It's like, oh,
Boom, you're toast. Let's see other stuff. Haywire's Foundry. The experience for the optional objective to defeat the elementals has been reduced. The XP for some other optionals has been increased to make up the difference. I have a feeling that was mostly because people were farming that optional. So that's right at the beginning. Riding the Storm Out. The raid has had its XP increased. Characters that are on the raid timer can now talk to the quest giver and access the ruined barter shop. That's also nice. Some more Slave Lord stuff. So the slave pits of the Undercity, which I think is the first one? Is that the second one? I don't actually remember which one's which. In any case, the number of enemies that spawn on normal difficulty have been slightly reduced. They added a rest shrine. Slaves now properly emote when set free. They changed some of the lighting. So this is the first one, because the Kobold janitors were hired to clean up the slime passage to make it possible for adventurers to move more quickly through the area. And also traps will no longer respawn, which could be problematic.
yeah, especially if you join a group late and trying to catch up sometimes.
Although generally when I join a group late, it's not. I don't really expect the. I don't see very often anyone actually disabling all the traps. So maybe it'd make it a little easier to run through. But let's see. The second one, Secret of the Slaver's Stockade. Water will now properly remove honey from pets and hirelings.
Nice. That was needed.
Oops.
Yeah, that's kind of a funny one.
That's a sticky bug.
Monster numbers now scale better throughout the dungeon. The Ogre Magi is no longer usable after you let him go. And the XP has been slightly increased. There you go. That's kind of nice. Other stuff. I thought this was funny. Players will no longer heal hit points and spell points when logging out, then back into a Reaper dungeon. That's definitely not supposed to happen. And let's see, other stuff. Update 35 quests in the Adventure Compendium will now display information when moused over as well. There's a bug that was talked about. Immunity to charms and other mind-altering effects should not be blocking Burst of Glacial Wrath's freezing effect. That's a bug and should be fixed in an upcoming patch. It's kind of a little bit of a random one, right? I'm immune to mind-altering effects, so you can't freeze me with solid ice.
Yeah, I think that's the spaghetti code interacting with each other.
Probably, yeah. PayPal stuff. So we talked about PayPal issues the last time or the time before, but Standing Stone Games had a little bit of an issue. I think it had to do with the transition. I don't know if they actually said anything about that, but I think it had to do with the transition from money going to Turbine to going to Standing Stone Games, since they became a new company. But, however, Alcade chimed in and said, at this time, all purchased content should now have been successfully delivered to affected accounts. If you attempted multiple purchases during this time period and did not actually mean to duplicate an order, please update any existing tickets you may have already submitted to account support, and they will be more than happy to assist with refunds as needed. If you have yet to submit a ticket and need to, please do so. Next update, he'll provide a date on which everyone can expect their compensation grants, which is if you tried to buy VIP during that time frame, you'll get an extra month. You have to do it through PayPal. And then also, if you try to buy points, you'll get another 1,000 points on top of that. Bonus days for the week. DDO bonus days bring you a 50% crafting XP weekend. Hey, if you've been waiting to maximize some crafting XP, this is your weekend. Or you wait for a little while. The bonus days, I think, are on maybe a 2-month cycle or so. Something to that effect. Store news. They are continuing to implement the necessary tech changes that will allow them to bring the DDO store back to an in-game browser. It's likely it will take at least a few more weeks before it's ready, however. I did hear, I think it was on DDO Players News, they mentioned that don't share your store URL because it's unique and it might let other people get into your account, which would be bad. Don't do that. See, sales for the week. Get crafting. Hey! This is great because there's an XP weekend for crafting as well. You get 25% off of essences, crafting experience elixirs, crafting success boosters, and collectibles crates. You can also get 5 Big B's Red Guiding Hand with the code RED-HANDED, 1 per account. That's a great code. Put that out there. I like
I was waiting for those to hit the freebie list. I want
Yeah, I
to
was
check
just
them out.
thinking, I think I know what I'm doing as soon as we're done with the show here. I need to go snag those. I haven't looked at them yet.
I got some green ones a while back, and I still have them. I haven't used them, which is unfortunate. I should find some way to use them, but yeah. With that, we can get into community news. We had the 231st Chronicle, and my guild, the Lava Divers. This is the Lava Divers on Kyber recorded the raid through riding the storm out. It's actually me who recorded it and posted it, and I sort of told my guild that I was going to do that. I told them I was recording it. I didn't tell them I was going to post it necessarily. But if you want to see what riding the storm out looks like on hard, you can check that video out.
Is there a particular language rating that should go with that before anyone has their children watch it?
Ooh, PG-13 I think would be a safe rating. I don't really remember, but I don't think we were like cursing or anything like that.
Just to make you paranoid, but I'm just thinking some of our raids when they go sideways, especially new. I'm glad there wasn't a child in it.
Well, yeah, no, everything went pretty smoothly. Actually, we tried a new technique. We had been splitting the group into 2 groups and sending one group west and one group east to do the puzzles. And this time we all went in the same direction, and then kind of started trying to leapfrog a little bit. It was a little uncoordinated in doing that, but we found that it worked a little better for us than splitting into 2 groups. It made dealing with the skeletons a lot easier. Let's see. White Cheese 123 has created a map showing the location of DDO's quests on Zendrick. It was kind of an interesting little map. It's the actual world map. It's not how to get to different places, but the world map kind of showing the locations of where all the different quests are. See, the Harlords of Melkir hosted a Riding the Storm Out teaching raid on Solona yesterday. That's on Voodoo's YouTube page, so you can check that out. If you plan to attend Gen Con, there's a DDO meetup in the works, so they have a forum post going for that. I believe it will be Friday evening. That's usually when it is. The Guild for the Week. Shamantra is a Solona-based guild looking for well-mannered folks, both veteran and new. The guild is willing to teach players as they can. If you're a casual player, you're on Solona, you want to learn a few quests, that sounds like a good place for you. The comment for the week. Which real-life actor, alive or not, would play your favorite character in a DDO movie about him or her?
I have to go with Sean Connery. There only can be one.
All right. What's he playing?
I'd say a paladin.
Okay. Just a generic paladin?
Yeah. I can't see him being a vanguard, though, so I'd say more of the DPS side.
Sure. All right.
I don't keep up too much with actors and actresses, so I'm going to have to pass on that one.
I was thinking Jason Statham would probably make a pretty good monk. Be a good way to go. Let's see, fan site news. We got a shout out for our show last week talking about gearing up for casual players. DDO Players News talked about Update 35, Patch 3, Ravenloft and more in the 125th episode. Ginger Spice introduced his Ginger Spice Dragonborn project. Stremtom was running Reaper difficulty on his show. Pineleaf runs his Dragonborn in a new YouTube video. Tactlicious and Craftlicious went to the Red Fens. Even tried life as a frequent soulstone in a new blog post. Mickey explains how to flag for Lord of Blades and Master Artificer. Confessions of Greek Mom celebrates a successful Korthos. Let's see, I think that covers that. Mickey's Delirium also had Legendary Elite raids the 23rd week for that as well. DDOCast news, DDO Splat still kind of limping along. If people are interested in joining us, we do a static group on Tuesdays, 5:30 p.m. Pacific time. It's just 2 of us right now, so if people want to join us, you're welcome to do so. We've been plugging a little bit the last couple weeks.
What level range are you guys in?
We are, I think it's 7 now.
Okay.
So it's still pretty easy to catch up to us. We do run stuff on Reaper difficulty, and we challenge ourselves. I mean, that's really kind of what it's about, right? And we have, in the second season, in I think 8 or 9 weeks, we've killed ourselves all but one of them, I think. So There's lots of death, and we have a lot of fun doing it. So, with that, we'll get into lightning post, and there's a fair bit of stuff. So I'm not actually going to read everyone's comments this week, partly because some of them were, I think, less than helpful for the discussion. And I kind of already addressed some of that earlier about when we started talking about casual players and giving a definition for the episodes and for this series. But Sean wrote in and said, "Thank you for doing the series." He defines casual in DDO as someone who solos unless you have friends. Pickup groups usually move way too fast for him to keep up, so he ends up soloing instead of slowing down other people. Besides, he enjoys spelunking in dungeons, which takes way too much time for others. He also said flesh render goggles not guaranteed. Yeah, that was something that someone mentioned last time, that the flesh render goggles, the Death Word cookie from Tangled is guaranteed, and I was going to correct it, and then I forgot about it and got distracted. And didn't do that. Yeah, I would say if you enjoy spelunking, you'll probably be able to find a few people that might enjoy doing that with you. Don't be afraid to put up an LFM.
Make sure you put an LFM flower sniffing or learning the quest or something, because that'll attract the right type of puggers that you're looking for.
And if you get people that don't want to do that, boot them when they leave the dungeon. Let's see, Foji Video wrote in, says, if you become slightly less casual and want to get good loot, he'd start with Shroud, then other farmable loot. But he said Slavers, definitely not for casuals. Raids, unless really lucky, not for casuals. Shroud can be done in 3 to 4 people quite easily, but not by a casual player. But by pugging with some more dedicated players, it can be done. And by asking, they will most likely give you shards. Other ingredients are not easy to get, but you can also just get some tiers instead of complete them. And Shroud loot can still be used at endgame. He's still using a plus 45 hit point belt. He's not casual, but he got on his first life when he was playing casual. So I would say that I understand that a lot of casual players are a little afraid of raids and slavers and grindy stuff. The reason why I mention those is because they're working towards an achievable goal. It's not just relying on a random number generator, right? Every time you run the quest, you're that much closer to getting a guaranteed piece of loot.
And they're not all 20. I saw they had the Lord of Blades and Master Artificer. We started running them a little bit because I believe you get your choice of weapon every 5 on Master Artificer, and you get a 10 for Lord of Blades. You get a good listing of stuff.
Yeah, those ones are a little harder because they're not run as much. But I do want to say, look, if you're a casual player or really just anyone that doesn't run raids and slavers and stuff like that because you're concerned about not being able to keep up or play well in the group, like I can tell you as someone who puts up LFMs for that stuff all the time, we take casual players, and I know that they're casual players, and it's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. No, we're not. Generally, we avoid putting those people in critical roles or anything like that unless we know them. But there is room in a lot of raids for more casual players. So don't be really afraid of. Don't think you can't run them. I guess is really what I'm saying. People will take casual players and people that don't know those quests very well. And you can skate on through, and something might drop for you. And even better, in a raid that, say, like my guild is running a lot, like we've run a lot of Tempest Spine and Legendary, which is actually not a terrible quest for a casual player to join us in. We get to that end chest. There's a several versions of armor that people don't want. People already have them. They're looking for a mythic version or something like that. So there's actually maybe a little better chance you're going to walk away with something out of that raid in general when you're running with groups that have been running it a lot. So something to keep in mind. But look, it's not for everyone. You don't need to run them. There's other ways to get loot. But that's why I was suggesting them, is because in my experience, we take a lot of casual players, and there's you're working towards the goal. It's not just waiting for the random number generator to be really nice to you. Let's see. Someone, I think Fran Olmsford said, likes most named loot. Now the rest of the named loot in Giant Hold has been massively outdated over the past couple years. And that's true for a lot of places where, especially after the last couple loot passes for random loot and crafted loot, a lot of named gear has certainly gotten to be less good as it used to be. But I would say that doesn't mean that it's not something a casual player shouldn't consider. There's still some good items there, and some of them have some unique things on them, or unique combinations, or maybe you can get strength or something in a slot you won't normally find it in. So just because it's outdated, I think doesn't mean that casual players might not like it. See, Livmo said he tends to start new iconics, and one of the first times he gets is a jeweled cloak. He puts a death block augment in the yellow slot, and maybe a dump stat or an off stat in the clear slot. It opens up a lot of gear options. He wears that level 14 elite cloak into epics when he can equip either the elite version or the hard version, and calls it good on cloaks for the tune. He really needs more spell absorption than that. If he does in later epics, he can swap out the trinket from Haunted Halls once the cloak runs out. So that's a good way to do it. He says the cloak makes it easier to focus on other gear like armor, rings, etc. If he doesn't pull it, then there's sometimes a lot of them on the auction house. But that's a good way. That's a good use of the cloak. A little death block item. So let's see. Leslie West says their advice to newer DDO players would be consider yourself casual gamers. Please consider playing DDO and hooking up with a good guild that prides themselves on casual and social gaming. There are many guilds that will gladly add you to their roster. The forums are a great place to find those, by the way. Casual DDO players are extraordinarily loyal to the game and can be green or vastly experienced. If you consider yourself as a casual gamer, your DDO landscape and future is brighter now than ever before. The game has many more options to choose from. Few games can compare to the sheer vastness of DDO, and the community here is top tier. I'd certainly agree with that. I know, what do you guys think? Is our community top tier?
Oh, yeah.
Definitely. Hands down.
Kind of the fun thing is these days, too, a lot of people are running reincarnation, so there's more groups at lower levels these days. Granted, they're probably mostly running Elite and Reaper mode because they want to get a lot of XP pretty quick, but you probably find that you can join them, and most of them won't be too concerned about you riding their coattails, particularly during a Buddy XP weekend. Puff Granny on Kyber says he loves the show. It feels as though you've overlooked an important item that could make the difference between a group wipe and glorious success. The Onyx of the 12, the one-shot, or the Obsidian of the 12. By turning in planar shards that you receive from the treasure bags in the subterranean, you can gain these items from an NPC in the marketplace. If you do not have this ability to raise or the UMB to use scrolls of Raise Dead, you can prevent a party wipe by being prepared. Great items. I love those items for that. I tend not to use them, but
that's a good point of having a way to raise dead on everybody, especially as you get into mid to upper epics. It's good to have some way to do that.
Yeah, I didn't put it in my list of utility items to farm for, mostly because it's a hard item to farm for. But the Raised Dead Ring from Slavers to the Shrinking Mines is a great item to find. It's easy to farm for once you can get to the quest. Getting to the quest is the hard part. Also, 2 pieces of Kenneth challenges that float from his different characters are the bracers for his electric throwers, which is kind of an interesting build concept just in and of itself. And the trinket for his bards and Fey warlocks. It is a good trinket. It has some Sonic stuff on it as well. He also preaches the gospel of Kenneth challenges for small friends and family guilds to get pots of guild renown, save your tokens, and learn the challenges to be rewarded for your efforts. Also a good way of using it. You can get XP potions from there as well, and Slayer potions. They're the smaller versions. They're not very great in that respect, but you can get them. So, see, anything else you guys want to mention with some of that stuff the listeners are chiming in on?
No, I think you covered it pretty well.
Yeah, sounds good.
Let's see. Do a question for the week. Does heavy armor benefit barbarians? The short answer is yes. It benefits anyone. Heavier armor has more PRR, which is helpful for anyone who can't use more PRR. The downside is you have to if you're not proficient with it, then you will receive penalties to skills and attacks. So that's something to consider. Barbarians are not normally proficient with heavy armor, but if you have, say, a fighter level, not only will you be proficient with heavy armor, but you would also be proficient with tower shields, which is kind of nice. Although, again, barbarians are not exactly known for using tower shields.
I know a lot of people will burn a feat on a barbarian at 18 or 24 to get that heavy armor just going into the epics.
They are less popular nowadays, but if you are Warforged, you can take the heavy armor feat for the adamantine armor feat, and you're proficient with that. You do not need a heavy armor proficiency to use it. Although it's effectively the same thing as using a feat on heavy armor as well. So it's not exactly you're not exactly saving a feat or anything. But I like Warforged a little more than most, I think. But the other nice thing about a Warforged barbarian is they don't get fatigued at the end of their rage, even at lower levels. So that's really nice.
And their race tree just got a nice little bump. There's a few more
Yes,
goodies
it
in
did.
there. If you haven't looked at the Warforged tree in a while, it's actually bumped enough you almost got to think about which robot to use.
Yeah, because the normal Warforged got a plus 25 melee and range power enhancement.
15, I thought. I think it's 15.
I don't know.
There's a spell power and there's a PRR between the tier 3 and tier 4. There's some nice stuff in there now.
Yeah, Bladeforged didn't get that, but the normal Warforged did. Warforged are actually one of the few, if not the only race that I sink a lot of points into their tree. 38 extra, so it's 15. Still, 15% extra damage. That's pretty awesome. And it's a good tree in general, so... like I said, it's one of the few ones that I actually sink points into. So... but yes, is heavy armor helpful for barbarians? Definitely. It's helpful for anyone. Just a lot of people can't, if they use heavy armor like arcane casters, then they can't cast their spells very well. Although you can, as a wizard or an artificer, definitely get your arcane spell failure down to 0 with heavy armor, which is pretty stinking nice. And actually with the sorcerer too, I think you could do it. With the Eldritch Knight's tree, it's kind of the trick. There's a lot of stuff in there.
It's a little more effort.
Yeah, a little more effort. It also helps. The other nice thing about being a Warforged, if you're a caster, they have in the racial tree arcane spell failure reduction. So that helps you get that heavy armor and not get spell failure for it. So there's other ways to do it though. With that, I think we have to close out the show here. Propane, do you want to plug anything here?
If you're in Salona and looking for a guild, check us out, Brotherhood Redemption. We take new, young, old, and just about any type of player, as long as you play well and have fun. Otherwise, thanks for having the show. Pleasure being on again.
Yeah, welcome back. From your travels, been out. I've been asking Propane to go back on the show for a while, and he's always in another country, having fun somewhere.
I was over in Finland for almost a month and Iceland for a couple weeks, so I've been out and about, but it's good being back.
Yeah. Antha, anything else you want to plug here before we close out the show?
Nothing to plug, but thanks for having me back. It's been fun.
Yeah. So thanks for listening to the show. Thanks to my guests here, and thanks to all the contributors for DDOCast. We got a nice, large group of people helping with the show. And thanks to Standing Stone Games and Wizards of the Coast. And thanks to CyberEars for hosting the podcast. If you'd like to support the show, you can visit our website, DDOCast.com. You can give one-time donations there, or you can support us on Patreon and have a monthly recurring donation. All that money goes to prizes for some stuff. I am planning on having kind of a big contest in the summer. So there'll be more about that probably coming out in mid-May or so. You can hit us up at DDOCast.com for show notes, MP3s, our calendar, previous shows, swag, and other fun stuff. If you'd like to be a part of the show or you have a comment on this episode, a question you'd like to hear us answer, or maybe a topic you'd like to hear us debate on one of our debate shows, or if you just want to say hi, you can leave a comment, or you can email us at ddocast@gmail.com. You can also find us on social media and follow us with latest cast updates. Again, at DDOCast on Twitter is the best. Our closing tip for the week comes from Neha Antha. Just have fun and play the way you enjoy the game. So until next time, may all your attack rolls be crits, all your chest level appropriate, have fun, and don't forget to gather for buffs.